Senator Coons.
Thank you, Chair Collins and Vice Chair Murray. Thank you for convening this hearing. And I want to thank each of the researchers who has dedicated your lives to science, to medicine, to progress. Thank you for your testimony today. Emily, thank you. I am enraged and struggling with this hearing. Listening to you talk about the value of hope to you and your daughter with cancer, and the very measured and reasonable way in which we've all discussed what's happened makes me crazy. Because DOGE, in my view, is a horde of locusts who've been unleashed on the federal government, and they have torn up things that we have built over decades. Let me just briefly review. At NIH, 1,200 probationary researchers were laid off and another 1,300 fired. That's 2,500 dedicated researchers. At FDA, 3,500 staff. At NIH, DOGE canceled 800 grants valued at over $1 billion. And we were told these grants focused on DEI, when in fact they focused on diabetes, Alzheimer's, mRNA, and cancer. My father died of cancer. My father-in-law died of cancer. My stepfather died of cancer. Your daughter, Charlie, is with us today because of the incredible dedicated research and the groundbreaking work of people we've talked so calmly about today. Dr. Schleckman, I have a personal friend, a combat veteran, a Marine Corps colonel, who came to me when he was diagnosed with stage 4 metastatic melanoma, as you just described, and whose life was saved by the research you described. I have a personal friend of decades, Nikki Soteropoulos, who came to me when he was diagnosed with brain cancer. His son, close friends with my sons, his wife, close with my wife. And he went to NIH month after month, year after year. Yes, clinical trials, doctor, sometimes doesn't benefit the individual, but I gotta tell you, it sure as hell benefited Nick and his family. It gave him hope and it kept him alive. And I don't understand how a single member of this Congress can look you in the eyes as a mother and say we should cut these programs. Sure, we can talk about overhead rates. Sure, we can talk about measured and thoughtful and reasonable ways to trim a little here or cut a little there, but that's not what's happening. What's happening is the whole-scale abandonment of billions of dollars of research. I was just at the University of Delaware last week at the National Institute for Innovation in Manufacturing Biopharmaceuticals. And you know what I was told? That at the University of Delaware, the little University of Delaware, Newark, Delaware, $55 million in health research, $55 million, has been delayed, paused, or withheld research on HIV, Alzheimer's, and characterization of cancer cells. And if that's happening in my little state all across our country, we are devastating the next generation of researchers. We are harming our nation and giving China the opening of a lifetime to recruit the best and brightest from around the world. And Emily, we are taking away from families like yours all over our nation hope. Emily, can you tell me how important hope is for you and Charlie? How important is it that we keep investing in research?
Thank you for the question. Hope gets you through the hardest days. And I know I explained in our story some of the hard days that we had, and hope is what kept my husband and I going and trying to save our daughter. There's no value you can put on hope, and we need to be providing it to all of the families like ours.
So yesterday I caught up with a Delawarean who's been living with ALS for years, and last weekend a close friend of mine confided his recent diagnosis with ALS. Senator Murkowski and I worked to get signed into law a bill to invest in ALS research. Dr. Esham, if I could, how will the cuts to FDA impact your agency's ability to characterize and bring new treatments to provide hope to those living with this horrific disease?
Thank you for that question, Senator. And I believe you're probably aware that the Alliance did send letters to this committee expressing our concerns about the volume of risks and departures and its potential impact on the ability of the FDA to be effective and be able to continue to evaluate safety and efficacy of next-generation medical interventions. I will say I did have the privilege of meeting with the commissioner on Monday and was happy to hear that that he does not have any major plans for a major reorganization. And while they're looking at efficiencies, potential consolidations and things like travel and IT and potential efficiencies that could be brought about by regulatory innovation, I was happy to hear that they are looking very hard and examining what functions need to be brought back to the agency to ensure that they are able to manage, optimally manage their workload and continue to review and approve next generation medicines. I think continued transparency and communications about this and engagement is going to be very important moving forward. The Alliance will be certainly examining the proposed budget, updates about staffing, including information about what positions are funded by user fees, and how we can work together to make sure that in total, the FDA has the resources it has to have to not just approve what's before them now, but to continue to drive investment in the United States into next generation medicines. If we don't have a functioning FDA, that has a severe impact on the ability to raise funds for next generation medicines.
The FDA, the NIH, the National Cancer Institutes, all in combination, give hope to those facing the beast of cancer, the challenges of a new diagnosis, and the need for a path forward that's positive. Thank you for what you do. Thank you, Madam Chair, for this hearing.